a grid onto that plate. But for now, if we're scanning a Western blot, we don't want to put a grid on there, so we'll click None. It asks you what the scan name is going to be. It will default to a time date stamp. I suggest you leave it at that. The reason I suggest that, and it's just a suggestion, is because it will always give you a novel name for a scan. It will never delete one. It would give you an error message if you deleted the name, but it's also very easy to do that. So my suggestion is to leave it at the time date stamp. It will always be novel. Down here, the group is the user group. That's just the one I've defined for you. So now you can take different resolutions for those presets. You can run a 200 micrometer scan, a fast scan, which is going to be very low res, and a single well glass plate. This is the one you're going to want to select for Western blots. And it gives you a chance here to enter a description. So the focus offset is automatically defaulted for the plate carrier. So, and also set for most traditional microtiter plates. It's about the same thickness. But if you order something different, you might want to make some adjustments. If you need to make some adjustments to that, you can. So down here is sort of the business end of the whole thing, particularly for Western blots. So you can see your intensity settings. You have both the 700 and the 800 channel. Now the way the instrument scans, it scans both, it engages both lasers simultaneously. So turning one or the other off doesn't save you any time at all. But you know, it will save you a little bit of laser life. So if you only have one channel, one secondary antibody on there, you may decide to turn that channel off, but it's not a requirement. The other thing I want you to note is the default setting here is set to 7. So the idea for scanning Western blots particularly, and your Incel Westerns as well, is to scan just below the threshold of saturation. So when we scan a blot, what we're looking for is, if we have saturated pixels, they'll show up as little white boxes. If the signal is not there, then you're going to want to crank the intensity up. If the signal is saturated, you're going to want to turn it down. So since you don't have any a priori information, what I suggest you do is use this preview function.
Can we go back a second?
Sure.
The 700 and the 800, what is that referring to? Is that the...
That is the wavelength of the secondary antibody emission, and so that's the laser.
And does it matter which one we turn off if we decide to turn one off? Or?
Well, it does. So, for example, if you have our secondary antibodies come in two different wavelengths. 700 is red, the 700 channel is red, and the 800 channel is green. And you will know. So, for example, this antibody is goat anti-mouse 800 and rabbit anti-tubulin with IR 680. So if you were only using this one, you would want to turn off the 700.
I see.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so I should have warned you, but we were chatting. So when it images here for the preview, it gives you a very low resolution, low quality scan. So that's the reason it looks so crummy. But it does give you an opportunity to make some adjustments if you need to. So right now I can see my 800 channel is saturated. So I can see some white pixels in there, and my 700 channel looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn down the intensity here. So I've set it to 7, I'll probably set it to 5.5. And just for fun of it, I might turn this one down a little bit as well. Just a word of note about these settings. It's a log base 2 scale, so you can go from 1 all the way to 12. So the difference between 3 and 4, for example, then it's twofold. I messed that up. Okay. So let's go ahead and start scan. So you'll notice there's a couple of things about this that are a little bit different. The scanning area cannot be defined. It just scans the whole area, but it's pretty fast. So you'll want to crop your image later. Also not liking the way it's jumping around like that, so I'll probably square up the wheels a little bit.
So did we get some of those markers?
Well, I don't know if that came in the reagents that you get. I doubt it did, because we've been running very low on that stuff. The thing is that your regular markers will show up Anything that's blue will show up in the 700 channel. So these Precision Plus over here will show up, the pink bands will not. So you'll just have to make an adjustment for that. But if you guys
Don't
shoot...
get to do a color. Don't get to do a color.
Yeah.
Yeah, just get
yeah.
the blue.
Yeah, what I should do is open up a training list for you guys and have you sign in. And when you do that, I will make sure that you get some reagents. Some additional reagents.
Yeah.